So Trump has Obama to thank for his economy, but Biden can't thank Trump for anything.
Okay. Let's get off this.
I wouldn't want to have an argument with Megyn Kelly. She knows how to handle combat, don't she? Isn't she a former lawyer? She's come a long, long way, baby. She's a person that, when confronted, knows how to handle it. I saw her quite recently defending her decision to be a Trump supporter, which is extraordinary because one of the great iconic moments of 2015 was like blood coming from her eyes, blood coming from other places. That kind of stuff was pretty intense. Well, now Megyn Kelly is pro-Trump. The world's changing. It's changing fast. Here she is, and the title says, torching Bill Maher for his criticism of Trump. Now, Bill Maher is another person like Chris Cuomo now, who's coming out and sort of recognizing, hang on a minute, these institutions, the Democratic Party is corrupt. It's a very interesting moment in your country. Let's have a look at this conflict between Megyn Kelly and Bill Maher and work out what it is exactly about it that fascinates us. Is it her as an individual? Is it him as an individual? Or is it the points that they're making? Because, you know, we get captivated by personality, baby.
I'm not saying you don't have a point. I'm just saying it's hard for people to understand why that, which is not democracy, that's the border issue. And you're right, they fucked it up. That, with like the things he's been saying, and all the people in his administration who said he's a fascist, he wants to be a fascist, he talks like a fascist, his friends are all dictators.
I don't care about that at all. Not at all.
Because?
January 6th was not good.
Wait, why don't you care about that at all?
Because they've been saying that about Trump for years. They've been saying that about Republican candidates for years. It has like a long storied history. If you are at all center or center right, you are used to having your candidate of choice completely demonized, whether it's the F word, the R word, the misogynist word. They tried to tell us Mitt Romney was a raging sexist because of binders full of women. They tried to tell us John McCain was a raging racist, notwithstanding the fact that he had adopted a daughter from Bangladesh. They've been doing this for every Republican. They get to Trump, and we no longer are listening to them. Trump has incendiary rhetoric, there's no question, but we have 4 years to judge him by, and the country was going pretty well when Trump was in there, unlike the 4 years we've had under these two.
Well, I mean, I could argue with that too. Actually, if Trump had this economy, and I could go through all the stats, the stock market is through the roof, wages are up.
Not as high as it was under Trump.
Well, first of all, Trump inherited somebody else's economy.
That's what Barack Obama would like us to do. Well,
it's true.
Okay.
It's really on day one, everything changed.
A lot of political conversations amount to that. That's old school. This is, there are many novel phenomena that have emerged as a result of the fact that we have new media now, new means of communication. Time seems to be moving more quickly. We live in a perpetual blizzard of never-ending data. But that was the fault of my predecessor, or I can't get it through Congress. Those arguments are perennial. They've always existed. It amounts to blame. If all you're going to do is blame your opponent, then all right, you might as well get out of it then, because you can't overcome the mandates or tenure of your predecessor. What you want from a leader is, isn't it? I'm going to, directed by a power greater than me, serve you. I am going to do it. I am going to overcome obstacles, even if it kills me. I'm going to overcome those obstacles. Now, if you're not getting that, you don't have leadership. Now, what I suppose we're in a negotiation about broadly is whether or not you want your secular, inverted commas, leaders even to take on those kind of challenges, or do you want them simply to make sure that the amenities and municipality functions, the water is working, the light turns on when I press a switch, trash is getting collected, vagrancy is lower, this country seems somewhat cohesive, and we're not continually funding wars all around the world. That's, a set of ideals that are not necessarily spiritual, though I reckon if you, to quote Kamala Harris, kick the tires long enough, you'll start to see that beneath them are the ideas that are rooted in theology, such as a kind of a unitive principle, that God is relational, as in the Trinity, that peace and service are important, and perhaps that highest idea, something I've only started considering recently as a result of my conversation with Jordan Peterson, you can watch now on Locals, this notion that why Christ is a powerful figure. One of the reasons that Christ, fully man, fully God, is powerful, because he makes the idea of sovereignty about not power of a king to dominate, power of a king to serve, power of a king to absolutely self-sacrifice. We've been coached and trained by our culture to see heroism as about individual achievement. But heroism, baked deep into our understanding of reality, will always include sacrifice. Now I'm talking about sort of a Jungian approach, or even your own great academic and sort of popular academic, Joseph Campbell, who would say that in any story, any myth that's going to have any tenacity, any tactility at all, its hero will have to at some point sacrifice themselves for another. So think about your favourite movie or your favourite book, and you will find at some point the protagonist does that. At some point, Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker or Erin Brockovich or Max Caius Maximus or whatever your R.P. McMurphy, in the end, they have to sacrifice themselves for a higher good. Almost as if that principle is somehow encoded deep within our DNA. Now, there are many things we can measure. There are many things we can understand through our brilliant, brilliant minds, our collective minds, through our instruments of magnification and specificity. But there are also things we will never understand. Think of some of the greatest minds we've ever known in the field of science. Newton, proven wrong. Einstein, proven wrong. Now, here we are in the quantum era, where we recognize that there appears to be a relationship between consciousness, or at least observation, and matter itself. That things aren't straightforward. That there is something that will always require faith. That intention appears to be part of the deal, way down at the smallest components of observable and measurable reality. Doesn't that suggest to you a creator? Doesn't that suggest to you a set of universal principles, i.e. principles that cannot be denied, cannot be desecrated, cannot be undone? I don't know. It seems to suggest to me that materialism and secularism are themselves under ideological threat, and that we need to move forward, that our institutions are no longer fit for purpose, in the same way that Napster destroyed the record industry, that the Occupy movement showed that new forms of protest were becoming apparent. New political ventures will emerge out of this technology. But those political movements, if not serviced by an ideology that is robust because precisely it is universal, then you are not going to have a sustainable movement. What are your virtues? Do your virtues change from day to day? Are you willing to say on stage that Kamala Harris has faced down her fiercest detractors, knowing that she said no to Joe Rogan? Are you willing to say this war's good, but I'm against this war? Are you willing to say this billionaire's good, but this billionaire's bad? These ideas apply across both parties. Indeed, the true radical looks not at the political parties, but looks at the institutions and framing in which they exist and say, what are we taking for granted here? What could be really challenged here? What could we move beyond here? So that's why I suppose you have to have a cultural purview that can sort of take on board Alex Jones and David Icke and Bishop Robert Barron and Barack Obama and Dick Cheney. You've got to somehow swim in this confusing sea and not go under and not drown and not become ignorant and not become hateful. And you are not going to be able to walk on water yourself. You need to believe in someone who can.
So just walk me through it. So Trump has Obama to thank for his economy,
okay,
but Biden can't thank Trump for anything.
Okay. Let's get off this. Because it's not what I really want to get to.
Amazing smile from Megyn Kelly. She recognises that her opponent has been bested. Bill Maher, been on that show a bunch of times, and Bill Maher contributed a lot to the culture, and I think I pray that he's a fundamentally decent human being. But Megyn Kelly, she's a fierce operator there, and we just see her in action. But what's important, of course, is principles, not personalities. What are we really discussing there? The tendency between both parties to blame their predecessor, and when it's convenient, you'll say, oh, but Trump, he inherited Obama's economy, but the reverse is not true. Unless you have real principles, unless you have real values, you're always going to struggle. Certainly that's been my experience in life. But that's just what I think. Why don't you let me know what you think in the comments and chat. We all remember Event 201. It's when we learned that potentially there were significant global forces acting a plan upon us that seemed dubious and suspicious. It was Bill Gates and the WEF and John Hopkins who ran a pandemic simulation in October 2019. A few months later, COVID hit. We're on the very precipice of an election, and at the recent bird flu summit, they announced a pandemic exercise this October, which obviously sounds eerily familiar. Australia, create chaos, lockdowns, and perform medical tyranny. The wellness company, you might be familiar with them, have created a medical emergency kit that you can have in your home. It's a solution where you can protect yourself, your home, and your family. Every home in America should have one. It's got life-saving medications in it like ivermectin, amoxicillin, and even Z-Pak. It's backed by experts like Dr. Peter McCulloch. Your medical emergency kit is a necessity rather than a luxury, and you can protect your family now by heading to twc.health/brand and use the code BRAND, all caps, to save $30. Don't wait till it's too late. Act now. Take control. That's twc.health/brand and use the code BRAND to get $30 off. Plus, it's free shipping if you're in the United States. So take advantage of that while you can.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.